This is my grandmother, Phyllis Smith, and I'm going to be interviewing her today for the project. Okay, first question. What year were you born?
I was born in 1937.
And where were you born?
I was born in Maple Plains, Prince Edward Island,
Why were you given the first and middle names that you have?
because my first name is Agnes, and my mother had a sister in Ireland called Agnes, so she called me after her. And then my everyday name is Phyllis, and my mother had a brother called Philip, so I was called Phyllis in memory of him.
What responsibilities did you have at home when you were young?
Well, I used to have to do the dishes, and we had no running water, and you'd heat the water on the stove in a kettle, and it wasn't easy getting dishes clean with not very much hot water.
What kind of school did you go to?
I went to a one-room school in the country with 10 grades in it.
How did you spend your summer holidays?
In the summer, there was always some work to do. You always had to do the dishes and make the beds and do some dusting, and dusting was something I didn't like doing. And then when we had our work done, we could go outside and play, and we'd play ball, or there was a brook below our house. We'd go down there and throw rocks in the water and splash around.
How did your family celebrate holidays?
We always had, holidays were very special, especially Christmas and New Year's and birthdays. And we always used a really nice tablecloth, linen, usually Irish linen, because my mother was from Ireland. And we had a good set of dishes we only used on certain days. And the food was always really good. It would probably be a roast goose and with dressing and all the trimmings, and plum pudding for dessert usually.
And what did you want to be when you grew up?
I guess I wanted to be a teacher because there wasn't very much you could do, only be a teacher or a nurse at that time. And I wanted to be a teacher.
What was your first job?
When I was finished grade 10, I was going into grade 11, and that summer I worked in the grocery store in Kincora, and that was not an easy job. You had to keep filling the shelves with groceries, and you had to write down on an order book everything that everybody bought. So if they bought a whole lot of groceries, you'd be writing a lot of stuff down, and you'd have to write the price beside it, and then you'd have to add it up. There was no adding machines, so you had to know how to add. And when the shelves got empty of groceries, they were stored in the basement. You'd have to go down and fill a potato basket with cans of food and carry it upstairs and put it on the shelves.
And when did you learn to drive?
When I was 16.
When did you meet your spouse?
I met him at a dance in Kelly's Cross, where we now live. And I was 18.
When did you get married?
We got married in 1960. That's not very good. I can't remember when I got married. I know we're married 57 years. So I got married in 1960 at the Catholic Church in Kincora, and we went to Toronto on our honeymoon.
If you won $1 million tomorrow, what would you do with the money?
Well, I would give quite a bit to my family, my children and my grandchildren, and hopefully I'll have great-grandchildren sometime, soon I hope. And I would give to charity, and especially to the homeless. I would give some money to them.
What's the most memorable phone call you've ever received?
I think the most memorable phone call was the time my first grandchild was born, and my daughter called, and she was all excited, and she was a little bit panicky, saying that she's in labor, but that her husband is on the golf course and she can't reach him. So I was happy to go and be there until he came.
Do you have any hobbies or special interests?
I love to read. I like to visit. And I like to visit especially friends if they're shut in and not getting out. And I like to play cards, especially solitaire. And I like to do puzzles, jigsaw puzzles.
If you could go back to any age, what age would it be and why?
Well, I think if I could go back to, and I would go back when I was young enough to be still working, and I'd go back to work at Brookville, the ski park, where I was for 27 years.
What do you feel have been the most important successes in your life?
Oh, I'm sure having children was probably getting married first, and to a husband who I'm with now for 57 years. And most days I like him really well. The odd day, I'd give him away, but then I'd have to go and bring him back.
And how do you define a good life or a successful life?
A good life is when you're in enough money to live comfortably, and that you can have enough enough money to live on, and to be able to support charities and that.
Sounds good. Thank you, Grammy.
Oh, you're welcome, Brianne.